Hidden Object Guru here with another check-in on some games I tried out recently. As always, these are scored out of 10 based on how interested I am in playing the rest of the game. Cosmonious High. Job Simulator was a satirical comedy charmer, as was Vacation Simulator. Now the devs behind those wonderful VR titles have moved the action into space, and placed players into the shoes of a high school student learning about bizarre future science in a space station classroom. It's sweet, it's funny, the gameplay is as clever as one would expect from the devs, and it's absolutely loaded with enough innovative interactions to keep players entertained for ages. A particular standout is the voice acting for the various characters, which is just charming for days. It's aimed at kids, sure, but I'm fairly certain anyone with joy in their heart will love spending time at Cosmonious High. 9 out of 10. Thrill Penguin. I'm generally a pretty big fan of sadistic platformers. I'm kind of addicted to pushing myself to the limit against levels specifically designed to frustrate me. I especially like it when they're just bonkers cute, as Thrill Penguin is. What makes Thrill Penguin an intriguing example of the genre is just how basic the moveset is. The Star Penguin has just a couple of techniques to move over and around obstacles, and with the levels constantly auto-scrolling, the player always knows just what button or direction to push in to get past each new obstacle. This transforms each level into an adorbs timing puzzle that I was absolutely there for. It's especially nice that, at least as far as I played, the levels are all brief enough that it was never a chore to have to restart after a failure. 7 out of 10. Treasures of the Aegean. The absolute definitive 2D time loop parkour adventure. It's an engaging masterpiece by any measure. I've already beaten this game once on Xbox, and to celebrate that it's now available everywhere, I'm playing it all over again. You can now get this game on whatever system you want, and since I actually did already beat it, we can call this one a 10 out of 10. Yacht Mechanics Simulator. I'm always down for a good game about fixing things, and Yacht Mechanics Simulator is better than most. The ships are easy to interact with, convenient menus make buying and installing replacement parts a snap, and there's even a test mode where players can run a ship through an obstacle course to make sure all of their repairs have held. Scrubbing decks and replacing parts now have minigames attached to them, so players aren't just holding down a button to remove bolts or add screws. It's a little awkward to constantly have to open a menu to switch between tools for these jobs, but overall the game works very well. Certainly a fine example of the genre. 6 out of 10. World War II Rebuilder. Germany Prologue. Speaking of fixing things, this game offers an extremely impressive premise. I've cleaned walls, rehabbed train stations, and fixed all manner of broken down machines. But rebuilding whole sections of a city, that's a new one on me. Bombing runs were extremely hard on Europe, and as a construction worker tasked with cleaning up the mess that the warring factions left behind. This game has the player demolishing rubble, picking up the usable bricks, stone, and lumber left behind, and then recycling it into repair materials. Or even building whole new structures. Interactions of the classic first-person simulator style, use a tool wheel to pick out the right item for the job, and then find a glowing interaction point, then watch the world take shape around you. I was especially impressed by the game's range. Players go all the way from the minutiae of assembling a staircase so that they can reach higher levels, all the way to recovering a huge church bell and reinstalling it in a cathedral. The Hamburg level the demo featured was wonderful. I can't wait to see what the rest of the game has to offer. 8 out of 10. Zelle. With both its title and gameplay being a cute spin on the classic Zelda franchise, Zelle is a charming blast from the past that has players taking on robots and soldiers all around a large map full of varying biomes. Once players get used to the basic combat mechanics, they'll find the game also cribbing pretty heavily from A Link to the Past, specifically, as they gain the power to jump back and forth through time in order to do some puzzle solving. Zelle is in full release now, but it still suffers from a not insignificant amount of bugs. Enemies will sometimes forget to react to the player's arrival and wind up standing around, confused as I slice them up with a laser sword. The point of view also causes more than a few issues, as changes in elevation aren't always well telegraphed, leading to players getting trapped on part of the map. During a fight, this can be incredibly dangerous. Still, it's a bright and attractive world setting, there are some good puzzles, and I'm certainly curious to see how the time-bending storyline wraps up. 6 out of 10. Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sister. Warhammer 40k in VR? Yes, obviously. Battle Sister puts players in the extremely chonky boots of a Special Forces trooper, battling heretics and Chaos troopers in a series of corridors and trenches. The controls feel fantastic. Slashing through hordes with an energy sword is always thrilling, and the weapons all feel properly impactful. The game embraces gore to a franchise-appropriate degree, with heads and limbs popping off with the barest encouragement. There are some tech issues with presentation. I noticed quite a few examples of textures popping in and level geometry going more complex as I approached it. All of this seems to be in service of keeping the frame rate as smooth as possible, and on that level the game is a success. Other than a single crash, I had no trouble playing it. I'm definitely curious to get a little further into the game's story. 7 out of 10. Frogun. With some cool Crash Bandicoot-style vibes and gorgeously blocky art, Frogun is, by all appearances, a perfect game for children of all ages. Or it would be if it weren't so oddly difficult to control. The platforming is extremely good. The block-based level construction makes judging distances a breeze. The problem comes from the core mechanic, the titular Frogun, or Frog Gun, that the player uses to fly across gaps by sticking to walls or hefty enemies. It's weirdly hard to aim, and after the first handful of levels get players warmed up, needing to shoot it on an extremely short notice while standing on crumbling platforms becomes a regular occurrence. Adding some stickiness to intended targets would have gone a long way towards making the game more playable. I love everything about this other than the titular Frogun, so I might beat it in the future, but don't count on it. 6 out of 10. I've been the Hidden Object Guru, thanks for watching. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons come up to help with that. There's a Patreon, you should like and subscribe, do normal internet things. I'll see you back here for more reviews as I play more games, but until then I'll say that's right. Au revoir.